There's a chickadee at your feeder right now, or there was 20 minutes ago, and it looked at you through the glass, not past you, at you. You probably thought it was nothing. A flicker of movement that caught its eye, then gone. But that bird has a map of your face stored somewhere in that skull the size of a walnut, and it has been updating that map every single time you've stepped outside this year. Here's what nobody tells you. Those birds aren't tolerating you. They're watching you, learning you, and some of them are closer to trusting you than you've ever been told is possible. Before this is over, you'll hear what a University of Washington study found when they wore masks in a crow territory, and what happened when they took them off. You'll find out why the bird that disappears when you open the door is actually paying you the highest compliment. And you'll learn the one thing you can do in your yard this week, just once, just for a few minutes, that changes everything. Welcome. We make the world outside your window harder to ignore. If that sounds like something worth keeping, hit subscribe. There's more where this came from. Before this ends, you'll find out what happens the first time a bird you've never fed, a bird that has no reason to trust you, lands close anyway. The answer is not what you'd expect. And once you know it, the yard outside your window is never quite the same again. 1. Most people think they're invisible to backyard birds. They move through the yard, refill the feeder, step back inside, and assume the birds barely registered them. That's not how it works. Birds that live near humans develop something researchers call a recognition threshold. It's the point at which a specific human stops triggering an alarm response. And the threshold isn't fixed. It shifts over time with repeated, non-threatening exposure. The bird doesn't stop noticing you. It stops caring that you're there. Urban bird research has shown this repeatedly. Birds that live near humans develop measurably lower alarm responses to familiar individuals than to strangers, even when those strangers move in identical ways and pose no obvious threat. The birds aren't responding to behavior. They're responding to identity. Your birds already know you. The only question is what they've decided. 2. There's a behavior you've probably seen without knowing what it means. A bird lands nearby, looks at you once, and then turns its back. That's not indifference. That's a decision. When a wild bird turns its back on a potential threat, it is calculated that the cost of continued vigilance outweighs the risk. Facing away means it has filed you under. Not dangerous, not interesting, not worth the energy. And that's actually the first real step, because it means you've been assessed, and you passed. But there's something underneath that. The European robin has followed large mammals through woodland for thousands of generations. Wild boar, aurochs, anything that breaks the soil and turns up what's underneath. The behavior is that old. When you dig in your yard, a robin doesn't see a person. It sees a disturbance, an opportunity. It files you alongside the boar. You weren't just tolerated, you were useful. What you do in your yard sends a signal the birds are reading in a language older than you. 3. In 2006, researchers at the University of Washington put on rubber masks and went out to trap crows on campus. Dangerous face, that's what they called it in the paper, was a caveman mask. The neutral control was a Dick Cheney mask. After the trapping was done, researchers walked the same routes through campus in both masks, without touching or disturbing a single bird. The crows remembered. They scolded the dangerous face for years. They recruited other crows. Fledglings born after the trapping, birds that had never seen the original capture, learned to mob the dangerous face from their parents. More than a decade later, crows were still responding. That study is the clearest evidence we have that crows don't just recognize human faces, they teach face recognition to their young. Which means that if a crow in your yard has ever watched you calmly day after day, that information is not staying with that one bird. It's moving. And crows aren't the only ones doing this. 4. Here's the thing that changes everything. It is not a feeder. It's not a special call or a technique anyone sells you in a book. Sit outside, not to feed the birds, not to watch them, just to be there, quietly, for 10 or 15 minutes. No phone, no sudden movements. Just you, occupying a space in the yard without agenda, feeding trains birds to approach a location. But a feeder doesn't know your name. It doesn't move, doesn't breathe, doesn't sometimes come out late. You do. And that's the difference. Because what you're building isn't a food source. It's a track record. The distinction matters because location and person are separate categories in a bird's threat assessment. A bird comfortable at your feeder is not automatically comfortable with you standing 3 feet from it. But a bird that has cataloged you, your size, your sounds, your stillness, begins to recalibrate you from obstacle to feature. You become part of the landscape. And once that happens, something shifts. The birds stop reacting to you. They start responding to you. That gap is smaller than it sounds, and it takes years to cross. Some people have been hand-feeding the same chickadee families for so many winters that the original birds are long gone. Not the same birds. Chickadees live 2 or 3 years in the wild. The same lineage. Nobody trained them. They were just there. And every spring, when a new generation of fledglings arrived at that feeder for the very first time, birds that had never once been fed by that person, never stood that close, never had any reason to feel safe. They already did. They already knew.